Hi there, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Cloud-Based Mayhem. Got a great show for you today. As you've heard on the last couple shows, I was down at Menorca in January in Valle De Bravo. We had 6 epic days of racing around the sky in paragliders. I think there was 150 people in the comp. It was absolutely just awesome weather, fantastic racing. And a friend of mine was there, Marko Hrgetic. Hope I'm saying that right, but longtime PWC pilot, just Air Jedi, really solid pilot. Usually flies 2-liners, of course, in the World Cups, but he was down there on the ENC, the 777 Queen, and just crushing. He totally won the sport class easily. I think he was still top 5 overall, maybe even a little bit better than that. He was one of the only 6 that made goal on the final day. We set a really long task. I was on the task committee, and we set a big one on the last day. He was one of the few to get in, and but just, totally gliding with everybody that were on the Enzo 3s and the booms and the really fast, 2-liner wings on a C. Marko lives now in Valle, has a school there, instructs there, planning on doing the 2019 X Alps. Just prolific pilot and has a lot to offer. And many of you have been asking for real, a lot more specifics on technique, especially when it comes to 3-liners, because most of the guests on the show are 2-liner pilots. So this is all about you, about 3-line gliders, about gliders that are a little bit lower level, but as we saw in the Menorca, you can still make them go really good. And so this is all about instruments and harnesses and hand position and weight shifting and how much brake pressure and how to glide better. So a lot of, real specifics on how to make you fly faster. A lot of people actually at the race were coming up at the end and going, God, man, I can hang with you guys in the lead gaggle for a little while and then I just lose you. And I don't understand. How do you fly so fast? So this will answer that and give you a lot of things that you can go out and practice on, even when you're not at a comp. Marko also just ran the first edition of this very cool air race he's doing down there in Valle, which he's going to do from now on. So keep an eye out for that and check out the website, all the show notes that go with this show, because we talk about polar curves. So those of you that are confused about that or how to use them, how to use macready, we have a really good discussion about that. So all that's going to be in the show notes. There's a lot of links there to the things he's talking about. If you're kind of unsure, you just want to brush up or want to know how to put it in your instrument, that's all in there. Those of you who've been to Valle, it's a pretty loud place. So there's honking and dogs and a lot of cars and trucks in the background. It's still worth it. I know that's annoying, but it kind of sets the tone for where he is, and that's okay. That's what we had to deal with. So please enjoy this awesome, fascinating talk that I think you're going to get a lot out of with Marko Hrgetic. Marko, man, so cool to catch up with you. I wish we could have done this a couple weeks ago down at the Menorca live, of course, but I've been actually dying to talk to you anyway because you were just crushing on the ENC on the Queen. So we're going to talk about that glider and how you make that thing go so fast, because that was really awesome to see, just cruising around the lead gaggle and crushing so hard. But before we do, I know many of the pilots listening to the show know who you are and have maybe gone to your courses and flown in your comps or seen you at the World Cups over the years. But can you give us kind of a quick rundown of your history of flight?
Okay, Gavin. Well, hi, everybody. My name is Marko Hrgetic, and I come from Croatia. And I'm just flying, it will be 13 years. In the comp scene, probably like 11 years. And flying World Cup, probably around 9 years, maybe less, 2 years. I just didn't have time to go. The last one was, I think, in Ager, like 2 years ago. And yeah, I was still am in the Croatian team at the World Championships and European Championships. But we'll see if I'll keep on doing that or not. I'm an instructor, a master instructor of APPI, and been teaching already a couple of years, almost 10 years from now, starting in Croatia and now doing it here in Mexico.
And what was the catalyst to bring you to Mexico? How did all that unfold?
Women. Well,
as all good things do. Yes.
Yeah. I came here actually for the World Championship 2009. And then at the closing ceremony, I met my wife. And that's how it unfolded later on. So that was, yeah.
Is she a pilot or is she Mexican? Or both?
Both.
And is your work 100% flying related?
Yeah, now yes. I had some other businesses before, but flying really takes me all the time I have, so I'm just dedicated for flying.
And does Valle work for instructing and for lessons year round? Like, tell me a little bit about your school. Are you just mostly teaching beginners? Are you doing XC clinics, or what does it involve?
Well, we work all year around. For this, Valle is really great. Like, we have flyable 330, 340 days per year. Even in the rainy season, we can fly in the morning. So it's really great place. So when you come to fly, to learn some course, you know that you're going to fly. So this is really great about Valle. And then as the season here changes, we have the dry season and the rainy season, and the conditions also during the months change. We program the courses that we give depending on the season. And mostly I teach from the beginner courses to the instructors. So for now it's like that. I don't know if in the future maybe we'll split a little bit. But for now I'm from the beginners to the instructors. I help a lot to create new tandem pilots and instructors here in Mexico, licensed. I work as an examiner for APPI, and so yeah, everything. It's just we a little bit split it depending on the months and the season when we can do what. Some seasons we do just beginner courses, some months we do cross-country courses depending on the season.
And was that tricky as a foreigner or is that because your wife is Mexican, that's not a big deal? Was that tricky to just uproot and move to a different country and start a paragliding school? I mean, was it quite hard to start getting your first clients and stuff, or was it pretty seamless?
I would say, well, it has like 2 points of view. For getting the clients, I wouldn't say it was not so big problem, because as I already won here a couple of competitions before I opened the school, so more or less people knew me, so it was a good start. But always when you go to work in some other country, you have to be like twice as better as the locals if you want to be at the same level. So I must say, I work hard. We work hard. It's every day, 14 hours from teaching and preparing and things. So it's working. Maybe the first year was a little bit like not so much work, but now it runs good. And
you've said APPI a couple times, and I'm not even familiar with that. Is that the body? Is that the license that the students end up getting? Is that a Mexican federation, or who is that?
So APPI is an organization that comes from Switzerland. Well, it's registered in Switzerland. It's an organization like any other paragliding organization, just this one is international. APPI means Association of Paragliding Pilots and Instructors. APPI has a couple of years of history, and the idea of APPI was to create a system that could be like international, recognized, and a chance for a pilot that can learn in one country and then go to fly in another country and have his license recognized. APPI is quite still new, but APPI as an organization is recognized by FAI, And so for us, here for Mexico, it's in terms of FAI, it's the official system for schooling here, and in some other countries also around the world. Like for people that really want to know what it is, they can find it on appifly.org, like a lot of information about it. So we use in my school the APPI system for teaching and for licensing, and yeah, it's a really nice way to learn. I was actually twice in the U.S. Probably some listeners will know. In Salt Lake City, we were giving workshops for instructors and tandem pilots, how to improve their skills and how to become instructors and tandem pilots, and also get certified for in the APPI system.
Take me real quickly, Marko. There are a lot of listeners that are very new to the sport, and I think one of the frustrations that I hear a lot from listeners is that it depends so much on who you go to, and if you're APPI or USPA or Swiss or French, there's a lack of standardization, I think, when it comes to teaching and learning paragliding. Again, very briefly, but you're, the APPI system, or what would, a total, somebody who's never flown, that comes to your school, what are you, take me through the syllabus.
We do it a little bit. I know USPA system because we like trying to do also some interchanging with the USPA system. What I can say about APPI, we have quite good the idea of how to teach to be autonomous pilot. Okay, the system of teaching is actually quite a big part is copy of the French system, probably something also from the Swiss system. So it gives it creates pilots, not chauffeurs. The pilots that really think, and it's a lot of emphasis on the autonomy, on the decision making, analysis during the flight, before the flight. So it has some quite good benefits that people that come into APPI from maybe some other system, they can really notice the difference.
Okay. Shifting gears here a little bit, when I got down to the Menorca, you guys were just wrapping up the XC Sky Race, which I think was the first edition of that. Is that right?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, tell the listeners about that, because that seemed like a really cool way to race paragliders. That was pretty fun. This was kind of your brainchild.
Yes, we were like, the idea was to create a competition where you don't need to have a Top Gun glider to win. That was the idea. And then also to show your real cross-country skills for everybody in the same conditions, on the same terrain. It's not that maybe someone who makes has money and goes around the globe, I don't know, to Kishada or somewhere else, and makes a huge flight, that he's actually the best cross-country pilot. We wanted to make a competition where we can see who's the best cross-country pilot, but same conditions, same everything, and just who will make the more. So that was the main idea of the competition. That was the main idea. And then also, like, there are many pilots that don't like to compete on the competitions because they say, well, they always send us somewhere that I don't want to go. So here on our comp, you can fly wherever you want. You make your own task, you fly wherever you want, and at the end of the day, who makes more kilometers, like more valuable flight, he will be the winner of the day. That was like the general idea of the competition.
Yeah, to talk briefly about how you scored it, because it was kind of a combination of the pilots would upload their flights to X Contest, so that was a score, but you also had a couple of interesting ways to handicap depending on the glider you were on, and then a really interesting finish. I don't know if I even understood that, but a cool way to so it was a combination of average time. Give me all the components that created the score.
So the score, like the formula that we made for scoring, I was really doing brainstorming about it a lot, how to make something interesting and what's the most valuable of the cross-country flight if you want to make a competition. So the scoring is not so complicated. Basically, you get a flight as any other cross-country flight, depending if you make an open distance or you make a flight triangle or FAI triangle, you get scores for that. But the trick was you can fly wherever you want, but you have to get back around the takeoff in the 5 kilometer radius, so you don't get the negative points. It's like making a goal. So you have to make your own flight plan. At the end, you end up close to the goal. Maybe you can end up also somewhere further, but you will lose some points. That is all a part of the tactics. So that, and then it was multiplied by the formula, by the handicap factor of the gliders. So the idea is that all the gliders can participate. It doesn't matter if you have a Top Gun glider or maybe B glider, C glider. You get more points if you're flying a lower class glider. Also, we wanted to do this a little bit for other brands that don't have top-notch gliders. To participate on the competitions, because it's a good chance. Okay, maybe you don't have the best CCC gliders, but I have the best B glider and I can make really good flights. So that was another part in the formula. And then the complete second part of the formula would give you points for the speed. So you could fly the same route, but in faster time. As your buddies in the same category, and you would score more points. We wanted to do this, so the idea of the cross-country flight or the value is, like, personally for me, the cross-country flight has a big value when it's planned and you can come back at the same place where you started. So you made a good plan about your flight, and then also, if you made it faster than someone else. Mm-hmm. So we have maybe two pilots, they fly same category of the glider, they make the same flight, but one of them made it 1 hour faster. So he should get more points because he was flying faster. So he was more efficient, so he should get more points. So that was like the other part of the formula that was giving the average speed points for the pilots. And sometimes it made some changes in the scoring depending on how the other pilots did. So it was quite interesting to see how it works.
Yeah, it's an awesome concept. A good friend of mine and a guy I know and Nate Scales here in Sun Valley, I think this was our third year. He runs a comp called the Intermountain Wide Open, and it's similar to yours, but different too. But it's basically your best 4 scores on X contest over kind of a 2.5 week period. But you can pick the site as well. So it's, so it invites people from Nevada, because we're really spread out here, as you know, in the States. And so it's a great way to encourage a bunch of people to fly. And at the end, it's just bragging rights of, who went the farthest. But I really like your concept, because you guys are, you're picking out a task, you're flying, at the same place, the same day. And like you said, if it was just X contest without the speed component, you could fly really conservatively and, try to stay in the air for 7 hours in Valle, which would be a pretty long flight in the middle of winter, and go really big. But, it's maybe not as tactical and as much strategy and as, efficient as trying to fly something really fast. So I think you're really onto something there. It's a great concept.
Yeah, it's like people liked it. We have to still, like, for the next version, we'll make some small upgrade in this scoring in the average speed. We saw like some things that are maybe not so perfect. One of the reasons why I competed also I was the organizer, but also competed. I wanted to see how it works, where we can play and how the formula should be designed, and maybe some upgrades in the future.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, listeners, I assume you're going to do that next year, right before the Monarca as well. I'm definitely going to come down and join it because it looked like a blast. And so, listeners, I'll have that up in the show notes. The link to the XC Sky Race and Marko's deal. That'll be a lot of fun. I'm sure you'll see a lot more pilots in it next year. That'll be great. Marko, let's transition to you, the Queen. Okay, so I mean, I think a lot of people were. There was two of you guys flying the 777 gliders, and both of you were flying really fast. Ryan Bloom was on the other one. We get a lot of questions about three liners, and this is a great opportunity to get into all that because all those years. I think you said 11 years of comp flying, a lot of World Cups and World Championships and on. Serial and CCC gliders and stuff and open class gliders. You were on a C on this one. So I'd love for you to share your thoughts on how you were making that go so fast because it's, clearly, being in Valle helps, you know the area really well, but you definitely had some secrets on all of us. So I'd love to just kind of tap into some of the things that you can pass on to our listeners that are flying Bs and Cs. Maybe let's just start with some tips and tactics. What are you thinking about? Like during the Monarca, what are some of the things you were doing that you maybe saw other people not do?
Okay, so I will tell you like in order what. Because it was like a puzzle. It was many things that I put it together that at the end worked out good. So I will tell you the whole story.
Great.
I think what helped quite a lot is that a week before Monarca, I flew in 6 days. We flew 35 hours I flew 35 hours. So I was quite sharp, and I know the terrain. I know how it works. So that helped quite a lot. But then for the comp, I must say, I made a mindset that I will be flying a sea glider. So some decisions that normally you would make on a comp glider, well, you can't make. So I already prepared for myself. Okay, I will fly. I can't win the whole thing, that's for sure. But there are some advantages of flying a sea glider on the comp. I won't for sure be pushing the bar till the end in front because everybody will pass me. But if the guys are already in front, I can use this a little bit for make a better strategy. Some good tips, I flew quite relaxed, I must say. One of the reasons was the glider, sea glider, really relaxed. I didn't get tired, really relaxed. So I could really be focused on not making mistakes during the flight. That was also one of the a little bit of the mindset preparing was don't make big bad mistakes, especially on the very beginning. Just be focused, and I think flying more relaxed helped a lot with this having a cool head. Some advantages I had was especially the first days we had the conditions with strong thermals but really tight thermals. And maybe on each glide, I would come a bit lower than the leading group, but I could catch up with the thermaling. So every thermal, I would be already on the top of the thermal. So this really helped me to stay in the leading gaggle.
Before you go on, because that's one that especially lower hours pilots, but even the experts, tell me about some techniques there because. I was actually fielding a lot of questions in Monarca, and people would come up and go, "Man, how are you guys climbing faster?" So talk about the subtleties of out climbing other gliders, because it's not. I think a lot of new pilots assume that you just got to turn inside everybody, and that's not what it is. It's there's a lot of other things going on there.
I would say a tip for all the pilots: if you want to climb good, you have to always search a better climb. Yeah. So, and this also is quite related with the feedback from the glider. When I got the Queen, it's really stiff glider, and I was a little bit afraid if I will feel the thermals, because it's really important for you to feel the thermal where it's going to be stronger when you move up in the thermal. And so what worked out quite good for me, that every thermal that we started, I would come with a group, maybe a bit lower. I could feel where the core was and just was able to center it better. And what also helped a bit, I could make tighter turns, so I could catch up the group. But the feeling on the glider is quite important, and then also being relaxed.
Okay, keep going with your other tactics. Then I'm gonna drill down on some of this stuff.
Okay, when flying a sea glider, a good advantage is like when the things go wrong, you can fix it up quite good. So I really didn't have a problem flying in turbulence. The task when we were flying over the crazy thermal and the spine, like I don't know how many times we passed there, like 6 times.
Yeah.
Like I was on full bar all of the time, and it was just going sometimes like 5 meters per second up on the full bar. And I noticed for most of the pilots, where like I was there was Kansas, and every time they got a little bit like of the lift, everybody would like release a little bit of the speed. Yes.
Yeah.
And little by little, I was catching the guys. I just didn't touch the brakes at all. Just going on bar and controlling the glider with the BC system, and that's it. And it was a really, for me, it was a good advantage. Like for me, if it was turbulent, it was a really good advantage on those.
Yeah, you just didn't have to come off. I could tell that watching you. You were just powering through. Like it's just so unusual to fly through on full bar through a 5 meter climb, but that was the day to do it for sure. That was so much fun. Okay, so. Next question. That's great. That's a great lead in. You were talking about, controlling the glider on the BCs, so a lot of lower hour pilots, they are quite mystified by, like the 2-liner thing, using the Badger bars, flying on the Bs, whatever you want to call it, using those instead of going to your brakes to catch mostly everything. Clearly that's a time thing, that's just experience. But, I haven't flown a 3-liner in years. So talk through, how should people who are just maybe they're stepping up to their first C, how should they approach it? And then what's the goal?
Okay, what I teach on the cross-country courses, especially the more advanced ones, hands up. Like the hands are up, except when you're thermaling, then the hands are down. But the hands up all the time. We try, like, don't touch the brakes. On the glides, when it's a bit turbulent or whatever, every time you touch the brake, you will lose the performance. You slow down, you lose your glide, and then after some time, the guys that didn't touch the brakes, they really leave you. This is, something we were talking about Bruce Goldsmith article. I completely agree. The nowadays gliders should be, if you want to really make a performance, you should be flying with without using the brakes on the glides. Also, there are some like advantages and disadvantages. The new gliders, they are all like made that they can adjust themselves a bit without touching the brakes, like something like a reflex technology. So the glider just cuts through. And then, especially if you are putting the brakes on, if you're pulling the brakes on the glider, on the transitions, on the speed bar, your profile actually becomes much more unstable and it's more prone for collapsing. So heads up, it's a good tip. You have to be like relaxed on your glider, and of course you won't be doing hands up if you're close somewhere to the rocks and you didn't make a good SIV and you don't know your glider. Yeah. But if you want the performance, I tell to the students, hands up, it's 10% performance. It's like jumping from B to C glider just with flying hands up. And then again, controlling a little bit the pitch and the movement during the glides on the speed bar. One thing is controlling it with the legs, with releasing or pushing the speed bar if you're not on full all the time, and then controlling with the back risers. So here with controlling the glider with the back risers, well, there are some couple of like different opinions about it. I really like how Valle Brothers nailed it with the BC system on the Queen and the King. I must say it was the first time, first glider with BC system I flew. So for the people don't know what it is, it's a small bridge between the B risers and the C risers. When you're pulling, you're pulling not just the C's, you're pulling also the B's. So it will behave, I would say, as a two-liner. So for controlling it in the turbulence, it's really, really efficient. You're not distorting the profile of your wing like on a regular three-liner when you're pulling just back risers. Some guys say, some designers of some companies say, if you don't have the bridge between B's and C's, rather use the B's so you don't lose the performance. And I must agree that every time you pull the back risers on the glider, you are also losing there the speed. If you check your wing up above you, you will see it deforms the profile, which with the Queen doesn't happen when you're pulling. It really pulls it as it would be a two-liner, and your trailing edge is nice and clean all the time.
So let's sit on that for a second, because I think a lot of pilots don't know that. So if you don't have the kind of symmetrical connected system that the Mauch brothers have done on the King and the Queen, you're saying it's actually better to reach around and still fly it on the B's on a three-liner.
Well, I personally fly with the C's. Okay. I feel it much more comfortable, and pulling the B's, it's quite hard. Yeah. I know Valle Brothers, they say it would be better to pull the B's than the C's, but it's like when I'm flying the night, this low B, it doesn't have a BC system. I use the back risers, but I will always try to avoid to use it just if I really, really need it. I will rather release the bar a bit with my foot than touching the risers or the brakes.
Okay, so do more with your feet.
Yes, do more with the feet and less with the hands on any glide.
Okay. Would you say that's the case with two-liners as well?
Well, with the two-liners, you can control much better the whole profile of the glider. So I would say a combination of both on the two-liners works quite good.
Okay. Speed. So a lot of people were coming up to me at the Monarca, day 3, day 4, Gavin, man, how do I fly faster? You guys just leave us. You just leave us. What are some, and my response to that, most of these people that were asking that had only flown a couple comps, or maybe that was the first one, and that's just experience. But what do you tell your students about, starting to pick up efficiency and speed when you're flying XC?
If you want to fly fast, the first thing you have to do is climb fast. That is like you can have a better glider or better glide, or you're pushing more speed bar, but that is really something irrelevant in comparison of how much time you lose in thermaling. If you really want to fly fast, then you have to be really good at thermaling. It's where you spend the most of the time, because your average speed when you're thermaling is 0. So the more time you stay thermaling, the slower you'll be flying. And that was like the key where the guys were flying fast, because we would find the thermal quite good. We would climb it fast, really just straight into the core, one round, and we were in the core, climb it fast, and when it got weak, we were left, just like spend as least time in the thermal. That was the core. And I can see like a tip for upgrading your performance when you're thermaling and when you're flying. So if it was like a 4 meter per second thermal and suddenly drops down to 1, let's go. You don't stay there another couple of rounds, which I see a lot with the beginners. They stay and they need more altitude. And then, of course, the guys in front got another 4 and you are still in 1. So thermaling, it's the number one thing. Just like you thermal good and have a clear decision when to leave the thermal.
What about when you're on glide, speed bar? I heard Farmer say some really interesting things about just being super loose and really allowing your hips and your butt to go with the glider when you're pressing a lot of bar and being on glide. The importance of being super relaxed. Can you talk about that? In other words, to avoid collapse, you really wanted to go with it, to weight it and to go with the sink. Whereas I think that's kind of opposite of what people mentally think. If it suddenly drops to the right, you go to the left. But you really have to go with it.
Yeah, you have to go with it. Personally, my harness that I fly is the ventral strap is completely loose. I fly really with harness that is super unbalanced, like really unstable. It helps in thermaling, but it's not so good on maybe speeding. It moves a lot. So
in other words, you want to be explain that for the folks that that may have lost you there. So you want to be really sensitive. You want to feel everything. That's why you have it really opened up.
Yes, I like it like that. So to feel the thermal, you can feel the convergence or the lines, but it has also a downside. When you get the collapses, they are bigger. The good thing is you have a more chance of counter steering with a more loose ventral strap. So that's a good thing. The bad thing is when you're on the speed bar, it's really unstable, the harness, so you have to really work it good with your body so you don't get the collapse. But you were mentioning, if you put yourself really stiff and the harness is very unstable, then you will be getting collapses all the time. So you have to work. Maybe if you are flying, I know some harnesses you can adjust this how you want it, stable or unstable. So maybe on some you can be more stiff, but in my case, as I fly, I like it quite unstable.
Okay. Weight shift. Talk to me a little bit about that. There's been quite a few questions that come through that people are confused about. Should I have a hammock harness? Or should I have a seat board? And obviously these are dependent on, the objective and what you're doing. Are you flying comps? Are you flying hike and fly? But, your students or your XC students, what do you advise them on when it comes to gear? And take me through the whole gamut: harnesses, instruments, wings.
With the harnesses, I must say I'm not a fan of hammock harnesses for two reasons. It's like both related to safety. Personally, I think if I hit maybe some rocky ground, having a seat board is something that will probably save me a bit more. But then there is this other thing, like the hammock harness. Normally, you don't have so much force to make a counter steering, especially when you have some situations when you have a big cravat and the glider is pulling you into the SAT auto rotation. So in this kind of situations, you really want to have some seat board so you can lean completely on the opposite side to go out of the problem. Otherwise, if you just hit the brake, you will stall the glider and you end up in the trees, which I saw quite recently already, a couple of situations with the combination of glider, hammock harness, and cravated SAT or spiral. The A gliders now they have like the new ones, 9-to-1 glide. It's like better than my first comp glider. And I make, when I fly cross-country courses here, I fly an A glider with my students, and we make a nice cross-country flights on an A glider. Maybe they're flying a B glider or also an A glider, and we make nice cross-country flights on an A glider. So it flies amazing, and it's like no worries, brain-free gliders.
That's great. Yeah, that is just fantastic. What about instruments? Where do you steer people there? Because there's been this big transition in the last couple of years to people being able to use apps and smartphones and stuff. What about that?
Well, like my favorite instrument is the Udi from Naviter, I must say. Even though I was working before a little bit on the development of LK8000 a couple of years ago. Personally, I'm like, I don't like to have too much stuff, because then I like start losing it. And so the cell phone, then you need an extra battery and the app and data, and you don't see the screen, and and you need a Vario part. So I like to have just one thing that has everything what I need. That's me personally, how I like it.
And does the Udi have one of those kind of thermal tracking? I don't know what you call that, helper. That kind of shows the circles and where it thinks the core is. Do you use that? Do you utilize something like that?
Yes, it has it, and I must say that I use it really a lot, especially like on the comp. Every time I want it, like it gives you really a good advantage when you're a little bit below to see where was a better thermal by looking the colors and the guiding that the instrument gives you. So I really use it a lot. For me, for thermaling, it's a really fantastic thing. It's just important to say, like for the beginners, you can't be thermaling and watching the instrument all the time,
Look up. We had some mid-airs down there, didn't we?
Yeah.
That's right.
But the instrument is a really important part, especially if you're flying across country alone and you want to be efficient. You can try it, like for pilots that didn't try the thermal helper. You make a couple of turns and you think, oh, maybe the thermal, it was here. I just moved a couple of meters. And then when you see the map, you see that you moved a lot. You're really somewhere else than the thermal was. And you can always come back to where was the good spot. Yeah. So I must say, it's important thing. I really recommend it. But okay, I wouldn't recommend it to the very beginner. Like take just something that makes beep, and anyways you have to concentrate on the traffic and the type of turn and stuff, and later on you can think about having screening colors and help you out with that stuff.
What are you thinking about? I maybe kind of cut you off earlier. Tell me again. You were kind of talking about some of the strategy points and tactics you were thinking about during the race. I know you've brought a lot of that across from your World Cup and World Championship experience and nationals and all that kind of thing. Talk about that a little bit more, because I think you've got a lot of valuable things to for those that are listening that, don't have a lot of comp experience, take us through day one to day end, kind of how you should think about it, how you should train for it, how you should, approach each day. What are the kind of the things, how do you set yourself up for success in a comp?
Okay. The first thing, I got this tip gave me one friend, one Slovenian pilot. It's don't screw up the first day. Okay,
that's what I did.
That's so that is like rule number one. First day, first day you make it to the goal. And then later on, you can just upgrade. So that's, I would say, tip for all the pilots, competitors. First day, it's the day that, in general, people won't be pushing so hard. And so just make it to the goal. And after that, you will have certain mental advantage over the guys that didn't make it to the goal. They are under more pressure. You have, already checked one goal, so you will be flying much more relaxed than other pilots. So this would be a really good tip. And then probably if you're flying, if you're listening this and maybe you're not flying for the very, very first place, looking in front where the other pilots go can save you a lot of time. So we had some situations that unfortunately also some days I didn't also quite see good. But if you look in front where the pilots went, you can make a better decision. Don't go if it's not working for them, well, try something else. So if you're flying in the back, you have some advantages of flying. So just make better decisions. That was, I would say, the last day. The last day I actually came on the podium. I missed the third overall place for 6 points, but I made it the last day. What happened, we had this long task. At the end, we were gliding from the north of Valle back to the airport. And I was there with Piero. I saw Mitch in front of me, and we were in a good position. But I knew if we go on a final glide together, I have a C glider, they have a CCC glider, I just can't make it with them. So I made a good decision. I saw it's weak, it's windy, and I left the guys. I got drifted all the way to Sakamakate, got climb, and I was one of 7 that made it to the goal. And it put me on the podium, on the first place in the sport and serial, just by making a good decision on what was going on. Easily I could have been pulled like some other guys to go on a final glide with them and then end up short, because I would end up short for sure. The other guys did. Piero didn't make it, and I wouldn't make it also for sure. So decisions on the what's going on, it's also good.
What about speed to fly? And I'd actually ask you to think about places not like Valle, because Valle is one of these rare places where you can use, I think, a lot more bar than we often do in other parts of the world, because you can just get in these crazy. I mean, that day we had the concentric circle task that was just the guys that were top three just never came off bar. There was no point, you just never turned. But, I think speed to fly still for a lot of people is kind of this mystery thing. We can't, we can't really fly like the hang gliders. We can't really fly macready. So how are you deciding how much bar to fly, and especially in comps, but I guess just in general, but especially in comps?
Well, I must a bit disagree here. I would say that speed to fly and macready rules apply for us also. And this is something what I also teach on the cross-country courses. I will tell you one secret. I have a Flytech 6030 for one reason, because it has like an average thermals of the day on the scale on the Vario, and based on that I think about the speed I should be flying to have the optimum glide, like to be the most efficient. So I do use it. Just this is something that people have to work out. What we normally I teach on some workshops for the instructors and cross-country performance courses and stuff. The tools what they can use to make their own polar curve based on their glider and how much speed bar they should be using. If you have an average speed of thermals, let's say 2 meters per second for a comp glider, it will mean you'll be flying all the time, let's say 70% speed bar. But for a B glider, it will be maybe just 30, depends on the glider. So this is something that really have to put people a little bit mathematics onto it to see how it works. But we do depend on this. And then also some misconception about the average thermal. People think, oh yeah, we had thermals. Like if you really want to apply speed to fly and macready and all these theories, you really need to know the real average thermal. So maybe we got like peaks 5, but at the end, from the time you got the thermal, you found the core, you moved maybe a little bit here, there, you got some like altitude that you divide by time, and you will get what was your average speed. And I will tell you, if the peaks were like 5, the average thermal was 2.
Yep.
Or maybe 2.5. Like if it's really blasting day, it's average thermals of 3 meters per second, but it's really like super good. So yeah, I would say it's important. Maybe, as you say, here in Valle, it's a bit different story because you catch convergence. So if you push into it before, you're winning there some time because you're not thermaling, you're just like flying for free. But maybe if you are flying in Colombia or in flats, then you will really have to think about it. I will tell you one story. I ended up in 2009 in the first super final in Poggio Bustone. I ended up 9th overall. And why this? Why a result? I bought 6030 and I bought the speed probe that was telling you your airspeed, and then you could set up on your 6030 the polar curve, and it would tell you like which speed you should be flying. At the comp, the weather was not very good. It was weak. And the pilots were very eager to win. So everybody was pushing full speed bar. And I was just reading the instrument. I was saying, this is crazy. Like the instrument is saying we can't push so much. So every thermal, I would come maybe a bit later into the thermal, but I would come always higher into the thermal. And I could stay really most of the time above the leading gaggle. So it was like really good and really great discovery for me. So it works. Just you have to a little bit pay attention to it. So it will depend how much speed bar on the daily average, think you're flying in headwind and stuff like this. And this is all something that you can play, like if you draw your own polar curve and make some maths on it. It's you will understand much better how to drain the maximum performance of your paraglider and also not to fly too fast. Yeah. There are some misconceptions. What I also noticed, many people maybe flies a big glider and on the Cobb they go full bar against wind and stuff like this to get a better glide. But if you check your polar curve, you will see that you really need a little speed bar of flying against the wind, and if you're flying a B, so it will change between the gliders, between the aspect ratio and stuff, how much speed bar you should be using. And I would say if you really want to have a good performance, to perform good, you really need to know your glider and what you can drain out of it, the maximum performance you can take.
So talk about that, because I know you've lost a lot of listeners there, especially the folks that are getting on their first B and C. Explain polar curve, explain how they can utilize it, explain how they can enter that into their systems. These days, with a lot of systems, they've made it pretty easy. You can just tell the system what wing you have, and it'll enter the polars for you. But can you give some more color on just explain that? Because I think some people were going to be Googling right then when you were talking.
Well, if you're Googling, then Google geogebra.org, and there you put Flumen, that's the name of my school, or Aprende a volar, or you can put also polar curve, and you will get like some really cool polar curves with stuff you can play with, the wind, the type of glider, and you can download it on your computer, and you can really play, and you can see the differences between the different types of gliders. And it will tell you your macready speed, how much speed bar with this and that wind. So if you really if you're into it, this is like the most fantastic thing you will find on the internet. So geogebra.org, and then just search Flumen or put the polar curve. Maybe if you put like 777 Rook or Boomerang, it will pop out somewhere there.
Cool. I'll add that to our show notes so people can explore that. Very cool. A question that just came in for you, actually. I got a little thing going on right now on Facebook. Any tips for saving your legs, on a big long day when you're using a lot of speed? Do you have any tips or strategies for pilots to not fry their legs pressing so much bar?
Ronston ratchets, Ronston ratchets, that's definitely without that you just can't make it. Okay, so really good pulleys. I really like this Orbit Ronston ratchets that you can buy it also online on some websites, and it comes with some racing harnesses. It's really saves your legs. Well, of course, it's good also to be in the good shape.
Yeah, that helps as well. Marko, you've talked about a lot of kind of the technical things and the school stuff, and what's another kind of foundational thing that you think maybe is undervalued or that people really need to be doing?
I would say the SIV courses. It's not. SIV courses, it's always good to have, but also the way how the SIVs should be done now with the modern gliders. People think, I made an SIV a couple of years ago. Yeah, I know how to make a full stall, whatever. But the thing is, the gliders, they changed quite a lot, really a lot. It's really not something invented. The gliders behave quite differently, and there are the techniques that were taught before on the SIVs, how to do the things. Some are really outdated, some really shouldn't be done anymore, and especially like a focus I would give on practicing and controlling the SAT auto rotation, which with modern gliders with high aspect ratio is more and more common to happen. So before you got some collapse, it would pull you into the spiral, you would throw the reserve, and all good. But nowadays, the gliders, they like to go into the SAT type auto rotation. When you throw the reserve the normal way, it tangles into the lines, and you have a huge problem. And these things can be practiced, and they're really easy to handle with weight shifting. I do this on my SIV courses, and you can make this without any, like, I personally, just to show it to students, I do it completely without the brakes, going into SAT with the half glider closed, no brakes at all, and just going out so they can see it can be done quite easily. And this is something I would really focus on the pilots to practice on the SIVs, because modern gliders, they really don't forgive that one.
That's great advice. What about some of the things that should be dropped from SIV? You mentioned that, a lot of the things that, were kind of staples of SIV aren't really appropriate.
For instance, a full stall. Before, it was like, oh, you just put the hands down and you hold it, you hold it, you hold it, you hold it. Now you do this, you put the hands down, you hold it, and you're twisted. Like, you do this on Xeno, you are twisted immediately. Okay, so this stuff can't be done anymore this way. So there are different ways now how to do a full stall, especially on the high aspect ratio gliders. The full stall should be done differently. It's a different manner, and how we use the backfly and stuff like this is something completely different, and should be should be upgraded in the future on all the courses.
Yeah, they. For those of you listening, I actually gave a talk about this when I was down at the pre-PWC in Zapoltepec back in December, and I showed the videos that Charles and Seiko have been doing. They've got some great educational videos in Annecy about about the Xeno and doing a lot with your bees, but also they very clearly show the kind of proper way to do that, the backfly and release, and I would think of it more kind of like an acro full stall, and instead of setting yourself up for what's almost an inevitable cravat if you just bury the hands. Great. Oh, fantastic. The other thing too, some of the acro pilots we've had on the show, they talk about that if you do an SIV, say even if you're good and you do an SIV once a year, which we wish everybody would do at least that many, but usually in an SIV you might do a few stalls at the end of the last day kind of thing, and the acro guys are horrified by that. What do you encourage your students to? They all talk about at least 300 stalls before you even you should even think about moving on. A full stall should be like launching and should just be something you don't think about too much.
Yeah, it's true. I fortunately can practice this a lot, and I practice it even here in Valle with all the gliders I get. I make like a whole session to know how it works. I tell to my students always, like, the first SIV you will make, it's just an introduction, okay? You won't learn much, but you will know what can happen and how your glider behaves and stuff. You won't be confident to make some stalls. But then maybe if you do it regularly, and then after the third SIV, then you get relaxed. And if it's not like third after 5 years, then you get much more relaxed about what you're doing and to understand. And so people come on my SIV, like they return, they change the glider, or they just want a little bit refreshment, couple of toes, and just that they feel comfortable with it. And at the end, everybody's doing helicos, backflies, whatever, like no problem.
What do you go ahead?
I would also say one important thing, maybe if some of the instructors are listening, every glider that comes on the SIV, like that I haven't flown, I first take it in the air and I try it before doing SIV with the student, so I know how it behaves, what I will tell him. So it's like something that helps me also a little bit, me to just feel the stuff and think. But I would really recommend to the instructors, like, take the glider in the air, try it yourself, how it works, so you can give a really precise instructions to your student.
Great. How do you feel about doing a bunch of SIV on a comp glider? Because I don't want to put him on the spot because he may have changed his view now. This was quite a few years ago, but at the World Cup here in 2012, Russ Ogden gave an incredible talk that we put up on YouTube, and it went crazy viral. But he talked a lot about two-liners and how things had changed, and how just the whole old school hands up in a frontal situation was potentially lethal on these newer gliders. That you really had to catch them. So it was great stuff. But when people asked him about practicing SIV, he really actually recommended that we didn't do it on our super high aspect wings, that we do it on our old beat up B. But how do you feel about that now? Because when I look at Charles and Seiko's videos, they're I can't remember that. I think they were doing them on the Enzos too, but they were certainly doing them on the Xenos. But it seems like now with the kind of the new knowledge and really like you're talking about acro stalling instead of full stalls, and utilizing backfly, it seems like we can and should practice.
Yes, I think like what you're flying, you should know how to stall it, spin it, and go out of it, like whatever thing you're flying. If you can't do that, maybe you end up in situation you can't resolve. So I had recently a talk with a guy, and he says, like, it's crazy if you're flying something that you can't stall or spin and get out of it. So I think people should be doing SIVs also on their comp gliders for sure. And I can see if you open on YouTube and you search for Fabio Blanco, he's teaching there the French team. Everybody's doing everything on the comp gliders. It looks spectacular, and the guys just nail it. So they can fly much more relaxed because they have the thing in the tip of the toe, if you say so.
Great, perfect. Speaking of, big transition. We talked a little bit of X-Alps when I was down there. Do I understand correctly that you're gunning for it in 2019?
Okay, it should have been a bit secret, but yeah, well, that's a little bit of the idea. Yes, I have it for a while, and I think I was listening the other day, also the podcast about selection of the athletes. I think I would have the stuff just to prepare the physically the body for the thing. I think flying is not a problem, and just to get into good shape. So, but Mexico is good for training. We have good terrain, quite high, so place for running that we go for a run. It's at 3,000 meters, so it's really good training place.
Excellent. Well, that's That's super exciting, and if I can help your campaign in any way, let me know. That's you learn a lot going through it, of course, and it's God. There's just so much logistics, of course, as you know. So it's there's many little moving parts. But if I can help or assist in any way, let me know. I'm more than happy to answer questions. But it makes me smile just thinking about it. It's a lot of fun.
Thanks for this. I know. That is one of the things about the XOps. It's the logistics, like the thing behind the athlete, and I know that's the most important thing.
Yeah, that's what's it's the unsung heroes for sure are your team. Those are the guys that are really working hard. But yeah, well, cool. Well, that's exciting. That'll be really fun. And watching how you fly a Monarca, that I definitely have somebody to worry about there. You're an awesome pilot. Well, great, Marko. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. That's some just super valuable stuff about three-liners. That's great. I think the listeners are going to really enjoy that. Folks, we'll be putting up in the show notes. I'll be putting up all the links to Marko's school and the race he's doing down in Valle and all the things we were talking about. I'll make sure I put all those in the show notes. So check that out. Marko, thanks, man. I really appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Gavin, for inviting me to your podcast. I must say I'm honored to share some ideas here. I really appreciate it, and I hope my tips will help someone to become a better glider. I really appreciate sharing here some ideas.
Awesome. Thanks, Marko. Appreciate it. If you're enjoying the show, if you got something out of this one or one of the many, many, many previous episodes with all these great folks that have been so kind with their time to come on the Mayhem and share their knowledge with you, if you get something out of it, think of it like a magazine subscription or going to the movies or something. If it's been entertaining or informative, all we ask for and all we've ever asked for is $1 a show. We don't do this with sponsors. We do it through you, our listening audience. So please support our work, and we'll keep bringing it to you. You can find the links to do that on cloudbasemayhem.com, or you can support us through PayPal or through Patreon. A couple different ways to do it where you can set it and forget it, which is pretty fun. You can also support it just by sharing it. Share it on Facebook, tell your friends, share it on other platforms. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, all those. That's a way where I can leverage my own sponsors to help make this work. So lots of different ways you can do this, but mostly just spread the word. It's all about making the community safer and making us all better pilots. Thanks a lot. Appreciate it. We'll see you on the next show. Cheers.